Player ratings then, Newcastle 2, Everton 1. Abysmal again, that, wasn't it? Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse than last week, we played a team that aren't as good and still managed to get beaten, still managed to show absolutely nothing in the game whatsoever. Getting straight into it, Robin Olsen, I've given him an 8, which is the highest score you'll see today. I actually thought he was Everton's man of the match. Come in on his debut, of course. You know, a lot of pressure on him. Considering Carlo Ancelotti said before the game that, you know, the decision to drop Jordan Pickford was just to give him a rest and he'd be back in against Manchester United. You know, Robin Olsen come in and put in a really, really solid performance. Made 2 or 3 fantastic saves to, you know, keep the scoreline down. Couldn't do anything about the penalty, of course, which was given away by Andre Gomez. And, you know, couldn't really do much for the second goal as well. Ultimately, I thought he was the best player on the pitch in an Everton shirt. And I think it's quite harsh for Carlo to come out before the game and say that, you know, he's going to be out of the team come next week against Manchester United, because I thought he made himself look quite big at times. He was commanding, he'd come out, he controlled his area, he actually jumped and you know, held the ball from a couple of Newcastle corners, which is something we don't see, you know, from Jordan Pickford. So I thought he was the best player in an Everton shirt, so I've given Robin Olsen an 8. John Joe Kenny a 5. Look, for me, John Joe Kenny's just a player that just let games just pass him by far too easily. You know, he just doesn't bring enough going forward, and he doesn't do enough defensively as well. He's the best defender in the world, and he doesn't make up for it with his forward play. And, you know, ultimately today, again, it showed that Carlo Ancelotti obviously took him off in the second half. And I said it in the instant match reaction. Listen, he's a stopgap. He'll do all right for a couple of games a season, but he is not a long-term replacement for Seamus Coleman. He's just not. We miss so much when Seamus Coleman isn't in this team. And again, today showed it. You know, we had James Rodriguez, Richarlison, Luca Dean and Seamus Coleman out, arguably our 4 best players this season, you know, as well as Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And, you know, Seamus' absence again, like it did last week against Southampton, it showed again today. Michael Keane, I've given him a 6. Thought he was the better of the 2 centre-backs, to be honest. They both struggled again. For me, they both allowed Newcastle far too much time and far too much respect in the box, and far too much you know, chance to create opportunities for themselves. But I thought Michael Keane was the better of the 2. There's a couple of crosses that Newcastle put in that he dealt with. He was getting forward as well in the last 5 minutes to try and equalise the game for Everton. So I've given him a 6. Yerry Mina a 5. For me, it's time for Yerry Mina to come out of this team now. I just think he struggles. I just think he struggles massively. And today, again, you know, the second goal, it's far too easy. Again, it's one long ball, and you know, I think it was Ryan Fraser's just completely open and allowed to run down that line, and Yerry Mina doesn't make anything really of the challenge. And like I said in the instant match reaction, again, I think it's time for maybe Branthwaite or Godfrey to come in next week, or even Mason Holgate, depending on his fitness. Niles Nkunku, I've given him a 6.5. Seen a couple of people criticising Niles Nkunku. He's still very, very young. Obviously, Premier League debut. I thought passing-wise, he struggled. There was a couple of passes that he just misplaced. There was a couple of times the ball was passed to him as well, and it just completely bypassed him, and it ended up going out. But you could see the intent was there. He was wanting to get forward. He was wanting to create chances. He was wanting to throw the ball in the box, but he just didn't have anybody feeding it to him. You know, he didn't have anybody in front of him who was making those overlapping runs or dropping back to allow him to go forward and create the chances. Defensively, I didn't think he'd done awfully. Like I said, wasn't involved in any of the any of the goals we conceded, either of the goals we conceded. But, you know, obviously it wasn't his usual self. It wasn't what we've become accustomed to with Niles Nkunku, but I'm not surprised by that, so I've given him a 6.5. Andre Gomez a 3. Thought he was the worst player on the pitch in an Everton shirt today, and I'm starting to lose my patience with Andre Gomez. In fact, I think I might have lost it completely. I just don't really see what he brings to this side. He certainly doesn't bring anything in terms of an attacking threat. He's not quick enough on the ball. And Andre Gomez, as a footballer, if you give Andre Gomez the ball and you stand there and say, go on, you do something with it, and you stand off him, he'll play well. He'll play well in games where teams don't pressure him. He'll play well in games where teams don't break him down, because he is good with the ball at his feet. He can find the pass. He's good with, with close control with his feet. But as soon as teams put pressure on him, as soon as teams get at him, he just panics, and he's just not fast enough whatsoever. And it's Andre Gomez and Gylfi Sigurdsson are probably the 2 easiest players to play against if you're coming up against Everton, because you just look at them and think, just put pressure on them, just run at them, just get at them, just get in their faces, and they will panic, because they're just not quick enough. And again, we desperately needed today somebody like a Richarlison or an Anthony Gordon who I don't really understand how he didn't get at least 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the game. But we desperately needed somebody that could come on and run at Newcastle. And when Newcastle were playing, poor balls across the back line, and when they were making mistakes, we needed somebody to capitalise on that and get to the ball before a Newcastle player did. And with Andre Gomez and Sigurdsson, they allowed Newcastle 2 or 3 opportunities even after they'd made their mistake to get the ball under control again and start controlling the midfield, and it's just not good enough. So I've given him a 3. On to Sigurdsson, I've given him a 5. Thought he was slightly better in the fact that I thought he tried a couple of crosses into the box. He tried a couple of shots as well, which went over the bar, but ultimately, again, it's nothing. It's no outcomes from Gylfi Sigurdsson. It's no creativity. He didn't help Dominic Calvert-Lewin out, which was the reason why he was in that team today, to help Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Didn't help him out whatsoever. So I've given him a 5. Delph. I've given Delph a 6. I thought he'd done okay, to be honest. I thought he'd done okay. Listen, he's not a player that's going to get forward and create your chances, and he's not necessarily a player that's going to be in the defence throwing last-ditch tackles in, but, he controlled the ball well. He done okay when he had it at his feet. He turned a couple of times, and I felt like Fabian Delph was getting the ball in the middle of the park, making some space for himself, making some room for himself with his quick feet, and then just looking for another Everton player to play it to, or looking for somebody else to move forward, and there was just nobody, so it made it difficult for Delph to then try and play a forward pass. He had to then play it sideways or gamble on a ball, and his long balls aren't the best, so every time he was gambling, it was just getting defended against far too easily. The corner, I've given him a 6 as well. Thought the corner and Allen were pretty much sort of, again, they were given a tough, position to play in before the game had even started, because they were in a midfield where usually they've got a James Rodriguez to play the ball to, or they've got a Richarlison to play the ball to, or they can play it to Dean or Coleman either side, and they had nothing really. Every time they were getting the ball, they were both looking around and thinking, I've not really got anything to do here. Decore played the further forward, and he was trying to get forward and trying to get in the box, but just didn't work for him. So I've given him a 6. Allen, I've given him a 6 as well. Again, very similarly, on the ball, he done well. He was getting forward a couple of times. His passing was good. Again, similar to Delph, he was finding little pockets of space, but there was just nobody to pass it to whatsoever. There was nothing, no creativity. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I've given him an 8. Feel really sorry for Dominic Calvert-Lewin today. Worked his absolute bollocks off. Tried to create chances for himself. Tried to create chances for other people. Put one on a plate for Gylfi Sigurdsson with an header, and Gylfi just didn't seem like he wanted to hit it whatsoever. Obviously got his goal towards the back end of the game, which is fantastic for him. But, again, I do feel really, really sorry for him, because even without the creativity, he's still trying to get us back in the game. He's still trying to, create chances, and he seemed like the only Everton player for the majority of the game that wanted to do that. Onto the bench, I've given every single substitute a 5. Bernard, Iwobi and Tosun. In terms of the substitutions, I understood Nkunku coming off, because I knew it meant that Delph would fit in at left back. But for me, Nkunku was one of our most creative looking players. He looked like, there was only really him and maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin and possibly Decore who looked like they wanted to get forward and create something. So I didn't really get that. I honestly don't understand how Cenk Tosun's getting game time before Anthony Gordon. I don't get it. Anthony Gordon come on last week, and within the 10-15 minutes that he was on, he looked like he wanted to create something. He looked like he wanted to get involved, and yet Cenk Tosun, who hasn't played for Everton in about 32 years, is getting game time ahead of him, and that's nothing against Cenk Tosun. Did he do anything when he come on? No, which is why he's got a 5. He didn't create anything. He had a couple of touches on the ball, which was poor. But that's nothing against Cenk Tosun. Again, I dare say he's worked his arse off in training to get that opportunity. But I just don't understand how Anthony Gordon isn't getting game time on this pitch. Again, ahead of players that looked certain to leave the football club in the summer if it wasn't for injuries or certain situations. In terms of Bernard, again, another 15-20 minutes to do something. He looked more attacking in this game than he did against Southampton, but still didn't create anything worth noting. Also, a little bit of a frustrating thing with Bernard is every time he was getting the ball on that left-hand side, his initial thought process wasn't to take his man on and get in the box. It wasn't to hit the ball at his man to try and force a handball, or, like I said, try and knock it past him and just run to force a penalty. It was, let me go back and pass it to Delph, or let me go back and try and pass it right into the middle of the park. You're there with all of that pace, with all of that skill, with all of that quality on the wing to pick that ball up. And if you can't put in a decent ball into the box, if you can't force the keeper to make a decision, force the defender to make a decision, throw the ball, just hit the ball in front of you and run at the defender, and any contact fall over, because it's a penalty in this day and age. And Bernard just doesn't do it. He's got all the utilities there to do it, and he just doesn't do it. He'd rather pick it up and play it back and then go, well, that's it, I haven't got it anymore. And Iwobi, again, just nothing really, was there? There was nothing from him, nothing from Iwobi, nothing from Tosin, very little from Bernard. And Carlo Ancelotti, I've given Carlo a 4 today. I thought he got it wrong, and I've already seen a couple of people on Twitter say, oh, what, it was Sigurdsson, it was this, it was that, it was the other. Carlo started with 5 central midfielders who haven't got an ounce of pace between them today. He started with Allen and Decore, who've done well, but let's be honest, they're not going to create an awful lot. Sigurdsson's proven in the past he isn't that creative spark anymore. Delph isn't that creative spark, although he played well. Gomez was dreadful. And we left Dominic Calvert-Lewin isolated once again, and he worked his absolute arse off, but there was nothing around him whatsoever. And even given the start 11, which some would say was understandable, Carlo then had the chance to bring on an Anthony Gordon to give that little bit of energy and to give that little bit of intensity to the team, and he didn't. He opted to bring on 3 players, 2 of whom have had opportunities in the past week or so and not taking them, and the other one who, like I said, wasn't even a part of the first team squad 2 or 3 weeks ago and wasn't even getting a look in. So there you go. For me, another dreadful performance, another dreadful result. And you know what? We still haven't got Richarlison next week against Manchester United. I pray that James Rodriguez and Luca Dean are back. I know Luca Dean's suspension is over, but I pray that both of those players are back to fitness, and I pray that Seamus Coleman's back as well, because I honestly don't think it's even, you know, I don't see us getting anything next week either if we still have those 4 key players out. And it just shows how much they mean to the team. Let me know your thoughts on them in the comment section down below. They are my player ratings. Another awful day at the office. Yeah, there you go. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon.